going to look at solving problems, solving application problems, and formulas. And we'll be using the skills that we've been working on, which is using tape diagrams to model situations and write and solve equations. So let's take a look at activity 1. Maya started a new exercise program. On the second day, she walked 5 minutes more than on the first day. On the third day, she increased her walking time from day 2 by 20% and walked for 42 minutes. She drew this diagram to show her progress. So take a look at the diagram there, and we're going to explain how the diagram describes the scenario. So we see day 1, we don't know how far that she walked. It doesn't say here how far she walked on day 1. It does say she walked 5 minutes more. On the second day, she walked 5 minutes more than the first day. So we see that in the diagram here. Day 1 plus 5. On the third day, she increased her walking time from day 2 by 20%. So let's take a look at that and see how this tape diagram represents that fact. So day 2 is going to be the whole here. Day 2 is going to be 100%. So here's this tape diagram from here to here represents 100%. I don't really have enough room to draw one of these little set brackets. So each of these blocks is 20% of day 2. Okay, so let me write this down. Day 2 is the whole amount in this increase situation. And so each of these little blocks represent 20% of day 2. All right, so all of this is the same length as all of that. That's equivalent to day 2. All right, so now we're increasing. On day 3, we're going to increase what we did on day 2 by 20%. So this block here represents the 20% increase, namely 20% of day 2. 20% of day 2. Okay, that's important, this idea of what is the whole. Okay. Now, next thing we want to do is we want to write an equation to model this situation. Bert says the equation 1.20 times the quantity d plus 5 equals 42 also describes the scenario. Ernie disagrees, and he says the equation 1.2d plus 5 equals 42 describes this scenario. Do you agree with either of them? Explain your reasoning. So why don't you pause the video and think about that, see if you agree with Bert or Ernie or neither, and give your explanation why. So this is really about thinking about what is the whole. What are we taking a percentage of? So in this case, this 1.2 represents the 120%. 120%, which is 100% plus 20%. So this represents the 20% increase. All right, so we're taking 20% of some number and adding it onto that number, or we're taking 120% of some number. Those are the same things. Now, Bert is taking 120% of what? Let's put that in light blue. Bert is taking 120% of that. Ernie is taking 120% of that. Okay? So that's the, if you can figure out what you're supposed to be taking 120% of, you'll be able to answer the question about which one of these equations is correct. All right, so Bert is taking 120% of d plus 5. Well, what is d plus 5? What does it represent? D plus 5 represents day 2. Put my percent in there. So Bert is taking 120% of day 2. Ernie is doing 1.20 times d in his equation, which is 120% times d. And what does d represent? D represents the amount walked on day 1. So are we supposed to be increasing by 20% of day 1 or 20% of day 2? That's really the question. Let's go back up and read here. On the third day, she increased her walking time from day 2 by 20%. From day 2. Increased her walking time from day 2 by 20%. So that means we want to increase whatever day 2 was by 20%. And we can see that in the diagram here because this length is day 2, and we've split this length into 5 pieces. So this 20% that is added on is 1/5 of day 2. It's not 1/5 of day 1. It's 20% of day 2. It's not 20% of day 1. So Mr. Burt, you're the man. Or should I say, you're the puppet. There you go. Good job, Burt. Gold star for you. All right. Now we know the equation we want. Now we want to find the number of minutes that she walked on the first day. So we could use the equation, or we could use a diagram, or we could use another strategy. So pause the video and figure out what would be the value of D here. How many minutes did she walk in day 2? So that we get 42 minutes in day 3 with these criteria. Pause the video, start it when you're ready. Well, I'm going to go ahead and solve this using the equation here in the video. And if you did it a different way, that's great, but you should get the same answer. Even solving this equation, there's 2 different ways to do it. Option 1 would be to divide by 1.2 to start. Option 2 would be to distribute the 1.2. We covered that a bit in section 1.4. I'm going to go ahead and just divide by 1.2, which is the same as 1.20. And then all I have to do is subtract 5 from both sides, and I should get 30. So whatever way you did it, you should get 30. Now, let's go back up here and see if this makes sense. So if I let D equal 30, if this equals 30, then the second day would be 30 plus 5, which would be 35. And then the third day, we would get that by taking 120% times 35 to get that 20% increase. Our multiplier would be 1.2. And sure enough, that does equal 42. So we have the correct answer. All right, we're going to skip ahead to problem number 5. Every Tuesday, Pepe's Pizza Palace celebrates with a $1.50 slice night. Henry loves pizza. Henry plans to spend $25 on dinner and not a penny more. So he wants to get as many pieces of pizza as he can. Let S be the number of slices Henry can buy. Write and solve an equation for each situation. All right, so he's got $25 and he wants to get as many slices as he can buy, $1.50 per slice. Now, he goes and he realizes, oh, there's an 8% sales tax on food and drink, and he's going to spend $5 on drinks and the rest on pizzas. How many slices can he buy? So we really want to focus on writing and solving an equation. That's the skill we're practicing. There's other ways to do this, but I think you're going to find that because of this sales tax, writing the equation is going to really help you understand what's happening and get the right answer. All right, so let's see. Let's figure out how much he's going to spend on food and drink. And then we're going to take 8% of that and add it on, or we're going to talk about a multiplier, so we'll do that. All right, how much is he going to spend on food and drink? Well, we know he's spending $5 on drinks, right? How much is he going to spend on food? He wants to buy pizza. He wants to buy as many slices as he can. How much is the pizza? It's $1.50 per slice. So we're going to take $1.50 and multiply that by however many slices we buy, S. So that's the price of food and drink. Now we have to pay a sales tax on that, an 8% sales tax on food and drink. So in other words, this cost of food and drink will be increased by 8% because of the sales tax. So we're going to do an 8% increase. What is the multiplier for an 8% increase? 8% increase. If we want to increase something by 8%, we're going to start with the whole and we're going to add on 8%. So we're really going to take 108% of whatever value we are increasing. And what is that? That is the food and drink. So we need to take 108% of this food and drink. 108% of all of this. The food, that's an S, and the drink. I'll take that dollar sign out of there since I'm not writing it for the other ones. And the drink, which is 5. Okay. Now, this is going to be the total cost of the meal. If he buys however many slices he buys, we have to times that by $1.50 for his pizza, add on $5 for the drink, and then that gets multiplied by 108%, which will increase the amount that he owes because it will be including the tax. And how much money does he have? He has $25. So this is needs to come out to be $25. So by solving this equation, we can figure out exactly how many pieces of pizza, how many slices Henry can buy. All right, let's go ahead and solve this. We have two choices here. We can either multiply the 1.08 into the parentheses using the distributive property, or we can divide because this is multiplied by this entire quantity. I'm going to go ahead and, well, you know what? On the last problem, I divided, so let's multiply. Let's distribute since I did it the other way on the last problem. So I'm going to take 1.08 times 1.5. 1.08 times 1.5 is 1.62. So that gives me 1.62s plus 108% of 5, which is going to give me basically the cost of the drink with the tax added in, which is $5.40. Did that say 40 or 42? 40, okay. So thinking about this equation we have right here, the 1.62 is representing the cost of a slice of pizza with the tax added in. They say the cost of the slice of pizza is $1.50. True, but with an 8% tax, you're really paying $1.62 per slice. And they say the drink costs $5. True, but with tax, you're really paying $5.40. So by distributing that 108% in there, we are able to see the cost of the slices and the drink as they are affected by the tax. All right, so let's continue to solve this. So we're going to subtract $5.40 from each side. Let's see, I'm running out of room here, so I'll write this over here. So we get 1.62s equals $19.60. So basically what this is saying is after I pay for the drink $5.40, I have $19.60 left. And each slice of pizza with the tax is costing me $1.62. So I'm going to divide that and see how many slices I can buy. Or this person can buy. Henry. $19.60 divided by $1.62 is 12.098. So any decimal here we would round down. Even if this came out to be 12.8 or 12.7, you don't have enough money to buy 13 slices, right? This is one of those situations where you don't round for everything 5 and above. You know, if this tenths place was 5 and above, you might think, oh, I'll round this up. But that doesn't make sense here because you don't have enough money, right? You can't just round up and get more money. So 12 slices. S equals 12 slices. So he can get 12 slices of pizza. That should fill him up. All right, let's take a look at B. Little different scenario here. There's still the 8% sales tax on food and drink, but Henry remembers that he has a coupon for $4 off his order, and he still spends $5 on drinks and the rest on pizza. How many slices can Henry buy now? Write an equation and solve it. Pause the video and start it up when you're done. So So the scenario is the same here. He's got $1.50 times each slice, $5 for the drink. Now the question is, where does the $4 get subtracted? The $4 is going to get subtracted before the tax because they can't tax you on something that you didn't pay for. So the 1.08, the 8% sales tax, that has to be applied to the cost of the food and the drink. So the cost of the food and the drink is going to be $4 less because of the coupon. So we'll subtract that off there to equal 25. So it's basically the same equation, except for you could think of like you're applying the $4 to your drink. So instead of $5, it costs $1. Think of it like that. So solving this is going to be the same situation. Why don't you pause the video and solve it if you haven't done so already? I will, and when I restart it, the equation will be solved. All right, so you should get 14 slices. Now, when I did this division, I came up with 14.76, but again, I don't have enough to get 15 slices. I can't just round up. I only have enough to buy 14 slices. Let's take a look at number 6. You're going to buy your classmates coffee at the school coffee stand. The coffees are $2 each, and you plan to buy a $2.50 bagel for yourself. You have to pay 8.2% sales tax on all your food, all your coffee and food, and you plan to leave a 15% tip calculated after the tax. So after you do your food and after you add the tax in, you're going to take that number and you're going to increase that by 15%, or you're going to multiply it by 15% to figure out what your tip is going to be. But your total cost is going to be increased by 15% of the amount of the food with the tax added in. Everyone has pulled in $50, so that's all the money you have. All right, I want you to write an equation. I really want you to focus on writing an equation for this. Now, we don't have a variable here, so the first thing that we want to do is figure out what is it we're trying to find. And you can usually answer that question by looking at what the question is asking you for. How many coffees can you buy? Well, that's then what we don't know, so we need a variable for that. So let's let C equal the number of coffees that we're going to buy. Okay, why don't you pause the video and see if you can write an equation. It really helps to give it a try. All right, let's start building this thing. So let's start at the beginning and just work our way through. The coffees are $2 each. Okay, so how much are we going to spend on coffee? We're going to spend $2 times however many coffees we buy. Awesome. Now we're going to buy a $2.50 bagel. So what am I going to do with that $2.50? I'm going to add it on to the cost of the coffees. So this is how much money I'm spending. I'm spending $2 times a C, for this is all the money I'm spending on coffee, and this is the money I've spent on a bagel. Okay, so far so good. Now we have to spend more money. We have to pay 8.2% sales tax. So how do I add the tax into this? Well, I need my multiplier, all right? This is basically an increase of 8.2% on our bill. What is the multiplier for an 8.2% increase? We're going to take 100% plus 8.2%, and that'll give us 108.2%. So my multiplier is 1.082. So now, maybe I should write this out. Let's see. This is food and drink. Okay, great. Now the next line is we're going to figure out the tax and the food and the drink. I don't want to use the word plus here because it might make you do something. So it's the food and the drink with the tax added in. So we're going to take our food and our drink, and now I need to increase this by 8.2%. So I'm going to multiply that by 1.082, that whole thing. Okay, now this expression is the coffee plus the bagel plus the tax. I'm using the word plus as the tax is being added in there because I'm multiplying it by my multiplier. We have one more thing left to pay for, which is the tip. So we're going to, oh, all right, there we go. And we're going to leave a 15% tip. So a 15% tip is really a 15% increase on the total amount that we're going to pay. So the multiplier is going to be 100% plus 15%. So we're going to pay 115% of all that. Because we're going to pay all that, that's the 100%, plus 15% of that for the tip. So if we want the tip, the tax, the food, the drink, we've got our food, we've got our drink. We multiply by 1.082 for the tax, and then we take that whole thing and multiply it by 1.15 for the tip. And all that needs to come out to be $50 because everyone has pooled $50, and so we're going to see how many coffees we can buy. So let's go ahead and solve this. Give a little room to solve it. There are multiple ways to start solving this thing. Let me just give you two, maybe three. So one way is to start by multiplying 1.082 into the inner set of parentheses and get what you get, and then multiply the 1.15 into there. Okay, that's option one. Option two would be to multiply, oopsie, we could actually multiply these two things together and get some number, and then bring this down and solve it from there. Okay, that's option two. Option three would be to divide both sides by 1.15 to get rid of this value. Let's finish it out this way and see what we get. So 50 divided by 1.15 is, let's round this to the nearest penny, 43.48. And then we could either distribute this 1.082 or we could divide by 1.082. Divided by 1.082. 40.18. 2c plus 2.5 equals 40.18. Then we would subtract 2.5 and get 2c equals, let's see, minus 2.5, 37.68. And then divide by 2. And we get, remember, this is the number of cups we can buy. It's not money. Hopefully dividing or rounding to 2 decimal places doesn't make you feel like it's money. Although I could see that. 18.84. So that means we don't have enough to buy 19 cups of coffee, so we can buy 18 cups. That's a lot of coffee. That's still a lot of coffee. I guess maybe we just have a lot of friends. So I would encourage you to go back to this equation and solve it one of the other ways that I mentioned just for practice. But let's go ahead and go through this and check this and see if it actually works. So let's say we were going to buy 18 cups of coffee. Let's see how much it would cost. So we had 18 cups of coffee, and those were $2 a piece. So that would be $36 for the coffee, right? And then we had $36, and then we bought something else. Was it a bagel for $2.50? Yeah, it was a bagel for $2.50. Okay, great. So we buy a bagel for $2.50. So now we've spent $38.50. So what do we have to pay for next? Well, we got to pay tax on this, right? So tax was 8.2%. So we have to multiply $38.50 by 1.082. And that gives us $41.66. And then we wanted to leave a tip, right? So we wanted to leave a tip of 15%. So if I take $41.66 and multiply that by 1.15, let's see what we get. After we leave the tip, we will have spent $47.90. 90 or 91. Let's round that to 91. Now, if you actually wanted to find the amount of the tip, then you would take only 15% times 41.66, and then you could add that in to the 41.66. Okay, now remember how much we started with. We started with $50. So if I buy 18 coffees, then I will spend $47.91. So how much change will I get? Well, let's subtract this off. It looks like I'm going to get $2.09 and change. So a coffee was $2. So you might be thinking, well, I could buy another coffee then, right? Because I have $2 left. Can you? Let's see, if you buy a coffee for $2, you still have to pay tax on that, right? So you'd have to pay tax on that coffee. So $2 times the tax, 1.082, would be $2.16. So with tax, the coffee's $2.16. Even if you decide not to leave a tip, if you've got only $2.09, you don't have enough money to buy another coffee. So that checks out. That 18 cups of coffee is the correct answer. Now I know that's a lot. I know there's a lot going on in that problem, but I hope that it gives you an appreciation of equations and how powerful they are to solve something. Solving this problem without writing out an equation would be difficult. Probably the best way to do it without an equation would be guess and check, right? Let's try to buy 20 cups and see how much that costs. Let's try to buy, if it's too much, let's try 15 cups and see how much that costs, and just guess and check your way through it. That's a legitimate problem-solving technique, right? It works lots of times. This is another legitimate problem-solving technique. And the key to being, math literate is having as many tools in your toolbox as you can so you can apply them to different situations.